touchline and of course it's the time for the fan favorite segment, the fan zone, where we're giving a focus on international football with regards to fixtures for the weekend and what's been trending in terms of headline of international football. And joining me is a whole lot of panelists. Salim Waziri has been here before. Very good afternoon, big man. How have you been?
I've been fine, sir, but it's baking hot out there.
Rogers Odhiamba, football writer, also joining us for the first time. Rogers,
yes.
What's good?
What's good?
Yeah.
Nothing really. Nothing really.
Sony Sugar is performing very well, Bana. That's a good thing to speak about.
But you're facing a lot of challenges.
Financial.
Yes.
That's a cliche nowadays. Robert Osoro is still with us, trying to check what is happening in the world of football, and especially he says that the title race for Confederation football, that is CAF Champions League and CAF Confederations, is in earnest. What can you tell us about the continental football so far?
I think from the conversation we were having before the cameras rolled up was about there's a lot of excitement currently for African football. People have started having that urge to follow African football, and you can see even from yesterday, if it was not from the Kenya social media forces, Kasarani Stadium could have been for the expo, but now people are like, now we are here and it's a quarter-final for the Confederations of African football. So no matter how we love European football, there's that optimism, there's that anxiety to follow African football and know what's actually happening in the front of African football.
Salim Waziri, starting with you, and we're going to start with African football. Of course, we're getting patriotic. And the draw for CAF Champions League and Confed was conducted last week, and I think teams were paired against each other. Moroccan side, Barkane will be playing Gourmet Football Club. What do you make of the African football and the level of competition that has been exhibited so far?
I think first and foremost, it's always a pleasure sharing the same set with you three true lovers of the beautiful game. But then again, we have come of age, Maxwell, because when we get to these stages, and for me, the fixture that will stand out is the TP Mazembe versus Simba, because that's a crunch tie, we all know that. But then again, it's good for the game. And then, as Osoro has said, you saw what the debate that was going on about Kasarani, but then again, even people are going on the Twitter pages and the Instagram and saying we need our football back, because Gourmet is one of the creme de la creme of African football, and people are yearning to watch them play in the biggest stadium or the best stadium there is in the country. So we say football at the moment in Africa is back at its very best. And even if you look at the Raja Casablanca yesterday, the final, it was mouth-watering, end-to-end action, and there was just much more than the trophy at stake. Bragging rights were also at stake. But then again, we say if football is at this level that it is now, I think we are going to see the best of the best in the coming years. But then again, if you look at the AFCON, the big boys are all there, the Nigerias, the Cameroons, the Senegals. That is what we want to watch, because you don't want to watch a matchup of the likes of Burundi and Senegal, because they will be ripped apart. You want to watch the big boys come up against.
But even the small boys can pull a surprise. You never know, because all of them have qualified to the continental showpiece. So
yeah, they can pull a surprise.
You can't really predict the outcome.
But then again, the beauty of these big tournaments is when you see the big boys coming up against each other. That's where the fun of it and the drama comes from.
Rogers, previously African football has been dominated by clubs from North Africa, of course Al Ahly, Egypt, Wydad Casablanca, and the likes of Esperance from Tunisia. Of course, South African clubs have also performed spectacularly, Mamelodi Sundowns and even Orlando Pirates. But Gourmet now being the first club locally to qualify to the quarterfinal stage of the continental football, that is CAF Confederations. What does that make of Kenyan football? Is it getting to another level?
Yes, of course. It shows a lot of improvement, a lot of growth, because initially we haven't seen such a kind of a progress. You remember last time when we were participating in the same competition, they were not able to go past this level. Now seeing them to be able to make that bold step, getting the vital win, and being able to going to grace the quarterfinals, it shows a lot of improvement. And if you've been watching how Gormaya plays now, of course of late, getting wins against I think Zamalek, They went away picking those huge wins. And if you look at their home matches, they were able to get those vital wins that were able to propel them into the quarterfinals, because I bet you know when you travel to the North African sides, for you to get those wins, it's always a very hard time, yes. So it shows growth, it shows some sense of maturity. Having strikers like Tuisenge, the likes of Kahata, those are good players. And so generally it's a good growth for my bit.
Also, Robert, you see, I remember when Gor Mahia Football Club was playing their return leg fixture, I think, against Hussein, they were promised hell. Yes. In quotes. And just like Rogers puts it, you know, away, there is that kind of intimidation that, you know, is put in place just to scare you off. But I've been speaking to SECAFA Secretary General Nicholas Musonye. He attributes, you know, the qualification of East African countries, 4 of them, Kenya, Burundi, Tanzania, alongside Uganda, Cranes, qualifying to the African Cup of Nations, to the, you know, stability of, you know, SECAFA and the organization of the same. I don't know whether they will read from the same script with him.
He's right. He's right to an extent where you can see that our leagues are progressive. Right now, we have not had a disruption of the Kenyan Premier League, I think, since 2006. I think 2006 was the last time Kenya had a disruption of the league. Since then, the major hiccup that we had on the league was the 16 versus 18. But past that, we have had a normalcy of the Kenyan Premier League playing all through, the Tanzanian Premier League, the Ugandan Premier League going on all through. But then again, there's a very migration of players in East African football. We have got players from Burundi playing in Kenya. You saw like Nezigemano was the captain of Burundi who was playing here. You saw players from Rwanda crossing over to this side, and Tanzania. So there's that feeling that, yeah, East Africa is stable, first of all, more so politically, where these leagues can go ahead without any political turmoil. You can realize in Egypt, no matter them going to host the African football, they have been having a very serious political instability in the country. Tunisia was also suffering from the same. So they are good in that sense. But in East Africa, our football has been that good because of the political sentiments that have been actually saving our countries. And that's the reason why. But then again, our leagues have improved. You look at Gor Mahia, they had been knocking on that door of the group stages for the last 5 years. Yeah, true. 4 or 5 times you are winning the league back home, but you go to African football, you play the first qualifier, you're out. You play the first qualifier, you're out. You play it, you're out. But then they went to the group stage. They tried their best and managed the group stage. Now they're in the quarterfinal stage. The big question will be, you have to make it now to the quarterfinal every time you are there. You have to fight for you. Absolutely. For you to come back to be a powerhouse in African football. The way the Tunis, Sfaxien do it, Zamalek do it is, every time you get that chance, you have to make it to the quarterfinals all the way through.
Salim, just like World Cup, we see several, you know, influential players, top strikers missing out in action because their countries failed to qualify for the coveted showpiece. The same thing applies to African Cup of Nations, because as we speak right now, Gor Mahia supporters who fancy Medi Kagere won't be able to watch him during the upcoming continental showpiece because Rwanda didn't qualify to African Cup of Nations slated for Egypt later this year. But basing on that, Gabonese national team has been dissolved by the president, and that is likely to attract sanctions. But the government says they are ready for sanctions as long as they will put their house in order, because Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang for Arsenal supporters won't manage to watch their guy playing in an African Cup of Nations, a tournament that would not attract heavyweights like Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah, Thomas Partey. Big step, bold enough to, you know, rejuvenate, turn around things?
Not really. For me, it's a step in the wrong direction, because if you ask me where Gabon has gotten to as a footballing nation, it has taken them so many years to get here, to have the quality stars like the likes of Mario Femina, the one who plays for Southampton, the likes of Obiang, who plays for Guingamp in France, so, and Aubameyang himself. So for me, I think the government involvement in football, you know, it's never accepted wherever you go on earth.
From FIFA.
From FIFA. So I think what they're doing, they are trying to patronize the entire team. Yes, we say football is a team sport, but you cannot tell me that you're disbanding the whole team, bearing in mind not everyone is performing, because I watched the game against Burundi. The Obiang boy was top class in midfield. These are players you have to, if you want to sanction or dissolve a team, these are players you keep out to make as Osoro is saying, that progression in football. You have to have a couple of players who will help you build the team around. And if you go on to like dissolve the entire team, then it means you're going back to basics, starting from square one, and that will take you years to come up with a complete product. So for me, I think the Minister of Sports, I think is called Ellen Bealey, has done it completely wrong, speaking from a footballer's perspective, because most of these players, you know, Maxwell, they live for that national team call-up. So it's their bread and butter, if we may say. So I think for me, it was wrong, and they've got to go back to the drawing board, because you cannot tell me that every single player in that team was a problem. Those ones that are performing well, that's why there's player statistics, you know, how much distance he covered, how many tackles he put in. So that is what they should use, not just coming up and saying Coach David Cousin has done it wrong and they dissolve the entire team. For me, I will say it for free. The minister is watching the show now. It was completely wrong.
Rogers, I and Osoro have differed openly on this particular platform with regards to, you know, Kenya's place as far as football is concerned, because he argues that, you know, Kenya is not that a footballing powerhouse, and going to the African Cup of Nations, we shouldn't expect much from the national team Harambee Stars. But I've had contrary opinion. Getting into the 24 countries that will be participating in continental showpiece, what do you make of Kenya's chances? And of course, considering that the draw is just a few days away, being conducted on 12th of this particular month starting tomorrow.
Well, I think I'll also differ a bit, because...
differ with who?
I think the one saying that Kenya has got no chance going into the AFCON.
Yes, just hold your mic properly.
Because, you know, picking wins against Ghana, in that pool, picking those wins, I think all the wins were at home, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. We picked a draw in Ethiopia, and then we lost out in Ghana. So people might talk of us not having the edge to grace the AFCON, but when you go all that way to pick the points and to be able to grace that opportunity, then it that therefore calls for good preparation, which I believe will come out. And so when we go there, you see, you know, the likes of people like Carter, people like Dennis Odhiambo, people like Matasi, they'll want to prove something, because that is a very big stage for them. You know, somebody like Wanyama has graced that type of football, but when you look at the larger squad, a good number of them haven't been there. So I think they'll be taking this as an opportunity to showcase themselves. So I believe even if a good chunk of people will be saying that they don't give us some cutting edge, but it's good for us. I believe we'll do something out of it. Let's first see and know onto how the draw will come out. Then from there now we'll be able to know if we'll be able to
this guy is ready to disrupt.
Let me tell you why I usually tell this guy Kenya is not a big footballing country. Is Kenya's performance in Africa Cup of Nations. Qualifying is not a problem. Kenya qualifies for now it's been the 5th or 6th time Kenya will be qualifying to the Africa Cup of Nations. But they have won one match in the Africa Cup of Nations. All the time, since 1960s. The first time we qualified, I think, was in 1972, the Africa Cup of Nations. Kenya has won one match against Burkina Faso in 2004, and it was a match where Kenya had already been disqualified. Realize that. Now, Kenya qualifies to the Africa Cup of Nations, but it's what you do at the Africa Cup of Nations that will matter. Absolutely. Right now, Kenya has qualified. We don't deny it. You have won against Ghana. You have gone against Ethiopia. But the moment you get to the Africa Cup of Nations is now where we will see the boys versus the men.
Yeah, yeah.
And for Kenya, I'm happy we go to the Africa Cup of Nations. I think in the next 2 years, again, we need to be in the Africa Cup of Nations. Right now, I'm not even putting Kenya at a quarter-final stage. I will be lying to you. Kenya needs just to qualify for the Africa Cup of Nations, maybe 3 times in a row.
Yeah, consecutively.
Then we'll start saying, now Kenya, can you fight for a quarter-final position?
Yeah.
Just that. But if we come out and say, we have qualified to the Africa Cup of Nations and we want to be in the semi-finals, we want to be in the quarterfinals, we are lying to ourselves.
That will form the basis of our detailed discussion in our subsequent programming, but of course I still differ. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm too patriotic.
Let me say, if we have grown up with football and everybody in the world, every Kenyan is like, hey, God, my heart, Bobby Ogola. We won the Mandela Cup. We have been to the Africa Cup of Nations, the likes of JJ Masiga. We have had these good players and everything. But what have you won at the end of the day? That's the question. What have you done?
So the yardstick for success in football is the number of trophies.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Away from that debate, because you are all ganging up against me, we're going to speak about Man United, what they have just done in the course of the week, confirming Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the Norwegian international, to be their, permanent manager for the next 3 years. Good move. Wouldn't they have waited for the season to be over, because they might finish out of top 5, and that would be a low blow for Solskjaer?
Not really. I think even the appointment has come too late, because if it was up to me, I would have given him the job the day they won against PSG, because this PSG we are talking about, and Manu was a very depleted side, but what he managed to do is give the boys the belief. If you watch the game on that very night, the likes of McTominay, they never looked faced with the presence of the likes of Verratti and Marquinhos in the center of the park. So for me, I think he deserves the job. And then, as Osoro is saying, when you want to say how great you are, you have to look at the number of times or trophies you have, how many times you've won. And if you're a manager, we've got to talk about the statistics. And if you look at his recent statistics, he has won 14 out of 19, drawing only thrice and only losing twice. He has gone on to win 9 straight away games, a record high for Manchester United. And then again, he has been the first manager in Man U's history to win the first 8 consecutive games in his career. So for me, I think it's deserved. And then for him as a coach, it's never about how many trophies for him he has won, because he was at Molde in Norway. That is a very boggy side, but he turned a boggy team into a championship fighting side. So that's how good he is. And if you look what he has been able to do, he has been able to bring back the belief in the likes of Pogba. He has just told them, go out there, play with a smile and have fun. That's all that matters. And we have seen Osoro, Pogba is back to his very best. Yeah. He's getting into the box, flicking in goals. And that's just the beauty about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And for me, I think he deserves every inch of that appointment, because he might not have won trophies, but when it comes to giving the boys the belief, is, I think, the best in the business.
I've been asking myself some certain question, which team does this friend of mine support? But from his submissions, I can tell he's a Man United supporter. Anyway, he's objective, though. Rogers, over to you. Some people have argued that, Ferguson might be playing a huge role in the current Man United, recent heroic exploits from, away from, the touchline and the communication between him and Solskjaer, a man whom he coached, a man whom he inspired winning, Champions League title in 1999 against Bayern, is working. I don't know. Will you buy that idea?
Yes,
that the recent good performance of Man United is also attributed to Ferguson's hand?
Yes, to some extent I will say so, because when we really want to perform, or if you want to excel, at times it calls for such kind of move, because you have to source out for kind of advice or something or what to do right in order to get the results. So I believe to some extent Ferguson has played some role into Ole's performance at Man United. Because when you look at the likes of Pogba, they have been played out of position. There was that lack of motivation, that lack of self-confidence. So he was able to come in, then he just did the right thing, play each and every player into the right positions, right? Then just go out there and enjoy yourself. And I believe from day one, when he took over, you could see the results. Yeah. All through. So I believe to some extent Ferguson has played a role in helping Ole Gunnar to be able to get those kind of results.
So, Robert, what do you think about Man United and their chances of finishing in top 4? I know that's their priority to finish in top 4 so that they can qualify for UEFA Champions League football. And, of course, this particular evening, they have a big assignment as they chase for top 4 finish. Do you think their chances are there?
Yeah, I think they are,
or it's 50-50, or it is slim?
8 matches to go. They have the chance to make it to the top 4 because they are trailing the top by 2 points. That's Arsenal. They have got the chance to go out there and try and make it to the top 4 because that's the yardstick. But I think for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and his appointment is, he brought the calmness back to Manchester United, and I think that's what they lacked at the moment, because with Jose Mourinho, the buck did not stop with the manager. It went all the way to the players and the dressing room. And with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, what he has done is everything stops with him. Everything stops with the manager. So you can see it's a dressing room that's happy, rejuvenated and all that. They want to play for their manager. The players out there, Pogba themselves, Rashford, Lingard, were rooting for him to be given the job. He understands the club in and out, and I think that's the major thing. And they make it to the top 4, they don't make it to the top 4, it's a rebuilding for them.
Absolutely.
Because
it's a rebuilding for them.
Yeah, they have had managers like Ferguson left, you have David Moyes, Luis Van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, and all these have been shambles. But I think for Solskjaer, with the 3 years they have given him, it's going back to the drawing board and rebuild Manchester United as a force to reckon with and come back and fight for the league very much. And I believe Solskjaer can do that for them.
Yes. Just before we get to the fixtures for this particular weekend as far as European leagues are concerned, Gabriel Agbonlahor, all of us remember him. He was spectacular for Aston Villa, of course playing alongside the likes of Ashley Young. He announced his football retirement, but now the question that is lingering in people's minds, football fans especially, is his age. Of course, he says he's quitting active football at the age of 32. What do you remember the English international for?
It was his pace and power and precision mostly, because he was a joy to watch, Maxwell. For those who have been who are lucky enough to be in this generation and watch him play, we count ourselves very, very blessed. Because when we talk about strikers, he has got to be up there with the very best. And when you look at his glorious career, bearing in mind he only played for the English national team thrice, you can't help it but just sober. So because he was, I think for me in that time and there, I don't think there was anyone better than him. Let's say maybe the Emil Heskys of this world, but he was as good as they get. But then again, a man who is a record goal scorer for Aston Villa with 75 goals, a man who has scored almost over 150 goals in 299 appearances. The numbers, they say, never lie, and they speak volumes for themselves. So I think for me, we can just say, as he bows out, we can only say thanks for the memories of Agbonlahor.
Agbonlahor, was he unlucky to play for a middle table team? Because we've seen players featuring for big clubs, but comparing their prowess with that of 30-year-old, going by his age that was reported after announcement of football retirement, was he unlucky to play for a club like Aston Villa at the expense of playing for one of the top 4?
Well, I'll say it was a bit unlucky, because when you look at a player like Agbonlahor playing at Aston Villa for almost all his career, and because I remember, I think I managed to watch, I think 2 or 3 seasons of him playing, and if you could look at his goals and how he played and how he handled himself, he's a player who was Uma will say was so unlucky not to have graced or not to have played in some of these top teams, because Aston Villa was just a mere middle table team those days when they were performing. I recall when they were able to maintain position 6 for almost 3 seasons, that is in 2007, 2008, 2008, 2009, 2009, 2010, and in all those seasons he was banging in the goal. So I will say he was so unlucky not to be able to play in those top teams in the English Premier League, because you score goals, you play out well, but to maintain at Aston Villa, then there comes those question marks. So a bit he was so unlucky.
Of course, fixtures for this particular weekend, starting with English Premier League. Fulham are playing an early kick-off tie against Manchester City, Brighton against Southampton, Burnley against Wolverhampton Wanderers, Crystal Palace play Huddersfield, Leicester against Bournemouth, then Man United, as they seek to finish in top 4 to qualify for UEFA Champions League football, will be playing host to Watford, then West Ham against Everton. So, Robert, What's your standout fixture?
I think West Ham Everton will be a very good game to watch because these are two sides.
Declan Rice now is in the national team
absolutely.
and he's playing alongside his idols because he says he was begging for a selfie with Harry Kane and now he's playing alongside him. What an achievement, man.
I think it's a big one when you get that one cup. I think as a player you can tell us that it's a big one for a player when you're back home because he actually learned it from TV.
Yeah.
When you're back home with your dad on the coach and the media is there saying Gareth Southgate has named the national team and Declan, you are here and you are going to play for the national team. It's a big one. It's a big achievement. More so for the Three Lions. It's a big achievement. And then it's a team that is now being built on young players. Because I think in all Europe, England is the team with the youngest players at the moment. Yeah, most of their players are under 21s, 22-year-olds. So for him to get that level is very good. And also the rumors coming in that the likes of Manchester United are interested in him is a big one for him. And he's a player who doesn't score very much. And a game like today, when he's going against a team like Everton, Everton is a team that does not get trophies, but it gives you a fight for your money.
Yeah.
And Declan Rice has to prove himself against a team like Everton today. So that is a match that he'll have to come up, play the best football he can play in, because against Everton, they don't win trophies, yes, but they've got some of the best players you can go against to measure yourself as a good player.
Marco Silva, of course, moving from Watford to Everton, coming with a few of his former players, of course, Richarlison, the Brazilian international, leading the attacking department alongside Gylfi Sigurdsson. Do you think he's been much of a success at the Goodison Park?
I think so. His team is in the top 10, and you look at the investment that Everton does into their team. They don't go to the best of the best in the world, to the which money can buy. They buy with what resources that they have. And from the days of David Moyes, Sam Allardyce came in for stability. I think Marco Silva has maintained that stability, and that's key for them. And they're fighting for a Europa League spot, and that is the key for Everton, for everything. But even if they don't get into the Europa League, that middle table for them, mostly in the top 10, Marco Silva has done his job. Because at the moment, if he's fighting for Europa League position and a top 4 position, you've got to go against some of the best 7 sides in APL at the moment. Forget United and a team like Wolves right now. It's on another level.
Rogers, which game will you be watching?
Of course, tomorrow's match, Man City against no, sorry.
But that is like a predetermined outcome, because a lot of fans are looking forward to victory from City.
Not the Man City match, but I talk of the Liverpool versus Tottenham match, because it's a crack of a match. Because you look at Tottenham, they're fighting to stick among the top 4, and you look at Liverpool, they're fighting to catch up with Manchester City. Actually, they don't want to have that kind of gap between them and Manchester City. So tomorrow's match will be one to watch, one that we should expect fireworks, because tomorrow's match, if Tottenham lose out, then trust me, if Tottenham lose out and then Man United gets a win today, and of course Arsenal wins on Monday, then they'll be out. Because when you look at their next features, I think they still have I think they still have Man United, Tottenham, if I'm not wrong. So generally, for me, tomorrow's match is my my pick.
Is your game tomorrow's match? Do you agree with him that it's a blockbuster and probably a determining factor to who wins the league? Because as Man United supporters, I know you're looking forward to Spurs' victory. That means it will derail Liverpool's title ambition.
Yeah, I think for me, in my personal opinion, these were the trophies either won or lost. Because, but then again, you look at it, if Liverpool go on to win, then it will spell trouble for Man City, because out of the top 6 sides, I think they are only remaining with Chelsea to play. That's the biggest challenge they have if you look at the fixtures on paper. But then again, there are 2 sides that come into the game, with Tottenham having scored so many away goals in the Premier League, more than any other team in the division, And then we look at Liverpool, they are the only side to have conceded the fewest goals at home. So it's a touch and go kind of situation, but this is a match that doesn't determine how magnificent form you're coming into the game with. It's a game where you just have got to take your chances. And if you look at the talents on show here, you've just got to sit back and relax and enjoy the game, because it's going to be attacking football at its very best. And the problem with Tottenham, they only have one problem. The two people that usually score, Son has dipped in form in recent games, and now they only depend on Harry Kane. And you have Virgil van Dijk that won't give Harry Kane so many chances to have a sniff at goal. So I think for me today is just a matter of whoever gets his tomorrow, whoever gets his tactics completely right will carry the day. But if you get them completely wrong and open up, you'll be ripped apart.
Sadio Mane has been in sublime form. Can he tear apart Spurs defense?
He can do that. He has been doing that all season long. But the good thing, what I like is, as we are going on to the tail end of the season, if Liverpool wins against Tottenham, now it will be a top 3 race.
Absolutely.
To the end of the season. Teams that are fighting for top 4 now have a chance to finish in top 3. And then between Man City and Liverpool, someone might lose somewhere.
Yeah, some points, some drop points.
Now, that's where you'll measure who is good enough to go
all the way
the marathon. But somewhere there, like a game like that one tomorrow is a game which is very hard to predict.
Yeah, true.
It's very, very hard to predict.
Final, of course, as we wind up, Cristiano Ronaldo got injured on his international assignment for Portugal against Austria. Big blow for Juventus as they seek to take on, they're taking on who? FC Porto, in UEFA Champions League quarterfinal stage. Is it a blow? Because Ronaldo has been, you know, the main man at the Turin. Rogers?
To some extent, it's a blow, because a player like Cristiano Ronaldo, you'd always depend on him, and he'd always come into place and into action when needed most. You remember when they went to Atletico Madrid and they lost out 2-0. He was able to inform the fellow player that, worry not, we will get the results when you come back for the second leg. And indeed, when they came back for the second leg, he stood out and performed. So I believe it will be to some extent a blow to Juventus, but of course they have the likes of Dybala, they have the likes of such players who will be able to come up and be able to perform. But of course they'll feel the pinch and the heat of missing out on Cristiano Ronaldo. So to some extent it will be a miss on Juventus.
I've seen a quick one. I've seen a tweet by Squawka Football. It's a verified account. I don't know whether it's whether it's the correct version, that, you know, Lionel Messi has been reported saying that, you know, the best players in the world, is mentioning the likes of Eden Hazard, Sergio Kun Aguero, his fellow Argentine international. Mo Salah is not included in his star-studded lineup. But what do you make of such, you know, posts? And
you said Cristiano is alongside.
It is
sportsmanship.
He is the GOAT. He can pick anyone. He can talk about anyone whichever way he decides, because when he dons the Barcelona jersey, he's a different beast. He has been winning games for them time and time again. But then, as you've said, you don't know if it's true, but that's what he said. If it's so verified, that's the part I really don't know.
I think it's true.
Yeah,
because it's an interview he had in his home Argentinian radio station.
Okay.
Yeah, where he said that currently Hazard, Mbappe,
Neymar Jr. and the likes of Aguero.
Yeah, but he said Cristiano is on a list with me, right? Which is actually true. And then he said that I hated it when he won trophies, but he brought prestige to La Liga.
And he's saying he now misses him back in La Liga, and he wishes him all the best.
Yeah.
But then
can Cristiano Ronaldo be quoted of the same of Messi?
No, he never said that. Ronaldo always says it is him and then others. That's what he always says. He never puts anyone else besides him. But from Messi saying that is a true sportsmanship gesture. You have to appreciate the best in the business, and that's what he did. Saying Cristiano Ronaldo is one of the very best. It is a show of respect, something that Cristiano doesn't give so much to him. But then again, that's football for you. That's Cristiano. He has all this ego.
Also, Robert, Conor McGregor retired. Is it because of the beating he received from one Khabib?
I think he discovered that his time is up with sports. He has been one of the most well-best players in the UFC division for a very long time. And right now, there are very many people coming up in that division. And I think Conor, for him being in that division, having won it, is a Hall of Famer in that he has actually realized that there are other good players coming up, and him being defeated was a show that your time is up, you gotta go. Some people are coming by for this game.
Thanks, gentlemen, for coming through. Salim, your prediction with regards to weekend's fixtures, football-wise, especially in European leagues, what should we look forward to as even we continue with this conversation on our social media handles?
Today I expect there's a La Masia derby,
Yes.
Barcelona versus Espanyol. That's a big one. Bragging rights at stake, crunch tackles, and the referee only blows the whistle when he sees blood. So that's a standout. And then I look forward to Man City going top after ripping Fulham apart this in a short while from now. But then again, for me, it has got to be the Man U Watford one, because Ole Gunnar has got to say why he has been appointed. So they've got to pick points today, because if they don't, they'll say he was performing because only he was a caretaker manager. So they've got to collect points today. And the way Pogba was speaking on Instagram, he's saying today is going to come to the party, so we're waiting to see that.
We're looking forward to the party. Rogers, how about you? Your parting shot, and what are you looking forward to, expectations?
Well, I'll focus on the EPL. Mostly the Liverpool-Tottenham match, and the Man City versus Fulham, and of course the Man United match against Watford. So the results will really determine how the table shapes up. So if Tottenham therefore loses out and Manchester United get the win today, then of course it will bring that change in the standings. So of course, yes, my focus will be on the EPL and of course on the standings, ranging on how the results will come out.
Robert Osoro, how about you?
The EPL is on my head, but before the EPL, I'll be following the World Championships.
Yes.
Our team is in Aarhus, Denmark. We'll see if we can retain the gold medals from the cross relays, the world cross-country relays and everything. So I'll be on that very much.
And someone has sent me the results here following what is happening with regards to what you've just mentioned. If I can just mention shortly, of course, with regards to, can't really see it very well, but of course we're going to be following it up on our subsequent programming. So the conversation continues at Wasike Maxwell, at Osoro Roberts, at Y254 channel, hashtag touchline Y254. It's been the fan zone, some segment on the touchline happening every Saturday 1 to 3 as we keep it sporty and talking matter sporting disciplines, both local and beyond. Salim, Waziri, thanks, and
always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure having you on board alongside Rogers and Osoro Robert. It's been a pleasure. Let's keep it sporty. Have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy and God bless.